Namaste and a very, very warm welcome to everybody. And a very happy Sunday. I just want to say thank you for taking out the time on a Sunday morning to be present for this really special gathering. My name is Sachi, and I work with Ashiana, where we work with children and youth at risk in childcare institutions. And once they are released, we continue to support their journey outside. I wanted to first begin by expressing my gratitude to Service Space, a community that I grew up in and have been very fortunate to grow up in that community, which has actually taught me all about service, about being in circles, living in a good way, and honoring the world. I also want to deeply thank John, Steve, Rajesh, and Pavididi and Mia San, all of whom agreed to host and support this gathering without a thought. Um, the event for today, we will begin with a little ceremony, which is very much a John special. So John will start with the ceremony and invite everybody in. After which we will introduce Steve and Rajesh. We will see the trailer of the film just for us to refresh our memory. And then we will spend time for about 10 to 15 minutes to reflect and share our thoughts about the film. After which we will jump into a closed circle with about 12 to 13 participants. This will be a demo circle where John and Steve will anchor the circle, and everyone will have an experience of the circle, while the rest of us, the 12 people, will have an experience of the circle, while the rest of us will witness it. Followed by that, we will open up for a question and answer. And then we will have a lovely closing by two of our amazing friends. So that's our flow for the day. Maybe I'll just jump into sharing and giving an introduction to John. I think his presence is enough, actually, but still, I know I have no shortcuts here, so I'm going to go and give a full introduction to John. So it is my honor and privilege to introduce my mentor and my relative, John. At a young age of 21, John went to work for the county probation department as a senior group counselor. It was there that he first used group therapy to help inmates make peace with their victims' families and with their own families. 7 years later, John was asked to help start the Foundry, initially a resting spot, so school for kids who had been to jail. John was the heart of the school for 25 years. Currently, John is working as an intervention specialist at the Santa Clara Unified School District, where he helps to change the climate of 5 schools working with troubled students through group work, as well as teachers and principals, as well as the teachers and principals. For the last 40 years, without a break, he has led free intergenerational community support groups focusing on grief and trauma. Since 1980, John is the director of the 500-mile American Indian Spiritual Run. This is his formal introduction, but I'll share a bit about what I know of John. I first met him in 2014 for a really short while with one of my boys. I had taken him to Ahmedabad, and that's where I met John. And instantly there was a connection. In 2017, I took a journey to the US to learn more about restorative justice and how to work with children and youth at risk. And the first day I met him, we went for a walk up the hills. And through his story of the sun and the mountains and nature and coyote, I found another lens through which I could see the world. Every morning I saw him wake up and take in the sun and respect the sun. And just seeing him paying respect to the sun and connecting to nature, I felt like this is what it means to live in harmony with nature and follow the principles of nature. He taught me to look for answers in nature. And so every time I went to him with a problem or with some situation I had with some kids, he would always cite examples from nature. He's also someone who's taught me how to tend the fire, because a community can gather only around the fire. And healing is possible in community. When we create safe spaces, we ought to be clean. And so he taught me how to bring sacredness to my work. To be with John, there is no place to hide or be inauthentic. And yet, being open feels safe in his company. He has a way to amplify the good in each one he meets. Every time I would meet John, he would always call out my qualities. He would call out what I was living up to. Even when he wrote letters to me, he would put a quality in front of my name. He would say truthful Sachi or lively Sachi. And then the little me inside would want to say, yes, that's a virtue I want to amplify. So without further ado, I will just hand over the space and the circle and everything to John for us to lead into a ceremony and invite everyone into the space and set the intentions. Thank you, John.
We all know who Sachi is. That's why we're all here, because Sachi said, come to the fire. So I'm confident you know the nature of Sachi. Some of you have just met her recently, but she does mighty work. She does heavenly work. She does soul work. So, you know, as you age, you really start to value your time. And the most important decision I made in a lot of years is to invite Sachi into my life, because I know she speaks for many people. And the people she speaks for are here tonight. So I'm touched because there's a core of us who prepared for today's meeting, and we wanted to make sure it wasn't a workshop. We wanted to make sure that ordinary people knew that we don't apologize for our ordinariness. I'm so ordinary. I put one foot in front of the other. So I would like to welcome you. You're my kin. You're my brothers. You're my sisters, aunties, uncles, grandparents. And the best way I know to do that is if you take one hand, your hand, and then take your ancestor's hand and put it in that one hand. So the ancestor hand and your hands are touching. And invite in your ancestors to this ceremony, to this gathering. And just notice who comes to you. Notice the warmth in your hand. I know it's hard to let go, but we can let go now. The ancestors are here with us. And I'd like to say, hello, India. You know, this is funny that we in California, in a way, are helping host this meeting, because let me tell you how many of us view India. We start our day looking to you. We start our day looking to the sun, our oldest brother, and we look for direction. And in your direction, we have found incredible stories. We've found incredible sense of community responsibility. Now, as a Westerner, that feels like such relief. So I don't have to be alone in my individualism. So you all remind us that we never have to be alone. In today's meeting, today's gathering, Sachi laid down the law, the spiritual law. She said, this is a check-in. It's not a workshop. It's not a how-to. It's a bringing together of the human spirits to remind each other of our responsibility. And our responsibility is to make safe places for children and to serve children. That's sacred work. But a lot of times we overlook ourselves. So I'd like you to sense we're a circle. No one's better, no one's higher, lower, where there's an equality in the circle. Each of you will have a legacy. You've chosen a road where you're going to help people. You're going to help spirits. The best way we can help kids is to remind ourselves kids don't need to be fixed. There's nothing wrong with them. So we want to bring our collective consciousness today to our work, to our circle. We want to make sure we don't teach kids that their trauma defines them. We want to remind them that all their pain is part of the journey. It's a purification. It's not a sign something's wrong with them. So you're the guideposts. You don't have to know a lot. You just have to know their nature. And Sachi, I honor her because she understands there's a part of all children that's never been damaged. It's called innocence. And I don't care if they've been at the train station for years, if they've been in the street for years. There's an innocence there we can appeal to. So together, we're making our agreements today. We'll have 12 people who will be in a fishbowl, so to speak. Their subconscious will come to the surface and remind us of those things that we've forgotten. So our fishbowl is about breaking new ground and also calling upon that which we've forgotten. So we welcome your soul here. If you think for a minute, part of this group, think of us as a body. Some of you play the eyes of the body. Some of you are guts. Some of you are the memory. Some of you are the heart. Some of you are the feet. You're just for a moment, consider what part you play in the group. So Sachi's body of work, you all have signed off on. And you said, let's go farther together. And so I look at that as like, this group is capable of being a doula, birthing a movement that honors children and goes beyond tragedy, stories of tragedy. Instead, we teach the kids the medicine they carry. We reflect that back. And as we reflect that back, then they understand their medicine is hope, it's courage, it's empathy. So we're all in this together. We can't do this work alone. And we ask you to offer your heart in this work. So for a moment, if you take your right hand and you put it on your left chest, where your heart is, feel the warmth. Feel, is your heart open today? Is it open to possibilities? Is it open to relationships where you can drop down to your guts, to your stomach, that will never be confused like your head. You have the courage to live 2 inches below your belly button. Now checking in with your heart, is your heart clear? Is it clean? Or is there work to do? Is your heart full? What have you filled your heart with lately? And is your heart strong? Is it beating for the children? Slowly release your hand. Take a good breath. And then put your hands together, pressing them together, bringing balance. So we're not at one extreme or the other. And prepare yourself to offer your head and your heart 3 times to all of those in today's circle. And in a moment, I'll ask you to bow 3 times, showing the respect and the trust necessary for us to go forward. And at your own pace, please begin your 3 bows. And tonight, we thank the audience that will witness the circle, because all sacred moments need to be witnessed, and witnesses are known for being pure, for blessing the event. Your ancestors have been called in.
He stopped.
John, we cannot hear you.
For how long?
There you go.
Okay.
1 sentence.
Okay. Thank you. So I hope you feel the warmth of each other and that we're in this together. And the only way things work is in relationship, you know. So to have a relationship, you can't appeal to dogma. You can't appeal to authority. So I'm so impressed with the work taking place out there, that you could get so many people together and join hands, you know. So from California to India, thank you for allowing us to have a voice, and we humbly enter your circle. Om Takyase, all my relations. And Sachi, I believe you wanted me to introduce Steve. Is there anything you'd like to add to the welcoming before I do that, Sachi?
No. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. So the way I would like to introduce Steve is I never considered Steve sick. He's been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. He's been diagnosed with untreated Lyme disease. That never interfered with our relationship. In fact, it brought an intimacy to our relationship. So not that, well, probably 5 years ago, we got an African serval cat. And that cat came to wildlife, and Steve has a way of bringing an animal in, welcoming it, reassuring it, you're going to be taken care of, those sorts of things. So we went in a room together with this serval cat from the savannah of Africa. And Steve said, just sit. I was keen off of him. We just sat. But Steve was having one of those days where the symptoms, he was quivering without any provocation, anything. This new creature just knew to come directly to Steve and start licking him where he was shaking. This cat who was in new territory. He didn't know Steve. This was the introduction. Steve's symptoms stopped. So now it's years later. I've been pushing Steve hard. Steve, you need the animals to heal, and the animals need you because of what you know. So they can relax, so they can be who they're meant to be, so they could teach right alongside you. Steve kept pushing back on my request. I said, come on, Steve. You can, a boa constrictor, 10-foot boa constrictor, you can handle it. It's okay and stuff. And he just kept refusing over the months to handle animals. And I started wondering, wow, I'm barking up the wrong tree. Finally, one day, gently, he said, you know why I keep telling you no? I go, no, I've gotten frustrated. I feel like backing off on the issue. He said, I don't want to hurt the animal. I might drop the snake. That's Steve.
Thank you, John. That was beautiful. I just wanted to invite Ann and Rajesh to share their journey with the film and what it has been for them. And then we'll show the trailer.
Yeah, thank you, Sachi. Hello to everyone in India. So
good evening or good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning. So I'll start at the beginning and then hand it over to Anne, and we're happy to jump into a lot more detail, during the Q&A session. But starting at the beginning, Sachi spoke about Service Space. And Service Space is an incubator for gig economy projects. And a friend of mine introduced me to Pavi Mehta, who is on the call today. And Service Space has this beautiful tradition that whenever they see anyone inspiring, an inspiring institution, an inspiring person doing these beautiful things and transformatory things in the world, they tend to anchor a circle. And they'll invite people who think might be inspired, might be aligned, and it's no agenda. It's a free circle. You can come, there's no expectations. You just come, get inspired, and hopefully there are some ripples that come out of it. So when Pavi started telling me about Wildlife Associates and Steve, there were two things that really stood out to me. The first thing was she said that Steve treats every animal as an individual consciousness. So he may have, two eagles or 2 porcupines, but yet each porcupine is treated as an individual consciousness. It has its own diet. Steve will take trouble to know its likes and dislikes, what kind of toys it needs. I mean, just the amount of detail was, it just like completely struck me that, oh my God, that someone is taking that level of care for the animals. And it also resonated, as an Indian, growing up in the Indian spiritual tradition, it really resonated with our tradition of, Advaita Vedanta, for instance, where we believe in that unitary consciousness, that everybody is connected. We believe even rocks have consciousness, although it's not manifest. For us, the mountains are holy, the rivers are holy. And so that really struck me. And then the other thing that moved me was that Pavi talked about how when Steve would introduce an animal to the circle, he would ask you to close your eyes. And then he would take the animal around and said, I just want you to feel the animal first. Because as soon as we open our eyes, we pass judgment, we pass, we do those things. And so that really intrigued me. So based on that, I just offered Pavi and I said, could I help in any way? And she said, oh, why don't you come for the circle? And oh, by the way, could we do a small recording? Or, and so it ended up that I was moved enough to do a small, I decided to do like a 2 to 3 minute promo film that they could use for marketing or fundraising, etc. And so that's how really the journey started. So I had no idea. All I knew was about Steve and taking care of the animals. So I just show up on, I think it was a January morning, and I go up there and I start filming, and suddenly John comes in. I had no idea who John was, what he did. John comes in with a group of kids, and these kids all come down, came with their hoodies on, and you could tell they weren't interested in making eye contact. They looked really tough. And they just came in, and John and Steve anchored them to a circle. And you could notice that as soon as they stepped, their foot on the land, something changed for them. It's an old Native American, land, and something changed right away. And then John would anchor the circles. And right before our eyes, these kids were changing. It wasn't like John or Steve was telling them, do this, do that, or don't do this, don't do that. They just created this beautiful, safe space where they told the animal stories and the kids connected to the animals. And in that moment of quietude where they made that connection, and these are kids who never trusted anybody. They've been betrayed by family, they've been betrayed by parents, sometimes friends, sometimes their own doctors. I mean, these are kids who don't want to have anything to do with the world, and pretty much a lot of them are ready to check out early. And so these are kids that you pretty much see changing in front of your eyes. So I was behind the camera and then, oh my God, this kid is connecting. They're sharing stories. They're getting deep. And, I was just completely like blown away. And Anne was standing next to me. I had no idea who Anne was. She was a volunteer as well. And she was standing me, and we just, I just felt so moved. I don't know what came over me, but I know that she was feeling the same thing that I was feeling inside. And I just turned to her and I said, this is magical. It doesn't matter what comes out of it. I think I'm just going to keep coming and recording it. And we had no intention of making a film or anything like that. So I just turned to Anne and I said, do you think would you be interested in helping me? I'm just going to come back and film. This is magical. And someone needs to capture it to pass it on to educators or whoever it was. And so really that's how kind of the journey started. And I'll let Anne talk about your side of the journey.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we're so grateful to be here, and so grateful to be in a circle with John and Steve and Sachi. It's such a blessing for the film and all our journeys. And I think, just sharing what, listening to you, Rajesh, kind of go back to the beginnings. I remember so distinctly the first circle that I attended. I remember getting out of the car and putting my feet on the earth and immediately feeling, I feel at home here. Like, what am I feeling? It just struck me. And as John was sharing in the ceremony, it was as if something was coming, like I was remembering something, and being part of the circle with John and Steve and hearing the storytelling. I mean, storytelling really connects us and allows us to go so deep in our hearts, even just listening to stories. And Steve would tell stories of the animals, and these stories were healing stories. And I felt so moved, like I need to help Steve share these stories in the world. How can I offer my time? So I just kept coming back to wildlife over and over to record Steve's stories. And that's where Rajesh and I met. But what, I'll just share a little bit about also the relationships. John, when he welcomes you into a circle, you are welcomed into a very safe heart space. And when Rajesh and I offered that we wanted to continue to record and film what we were seeing before our very eyes, John brought us into the middle of the circle with all the children and said, "These are my friends. These are my noble friends, Anne and Rajesh. And they're going to film and they're going to interview you if you're comfortable. And I just want you, you can trust them." And so that's all it took. That first day, we interviewed 3 or 4 of the students, and we were so moved by the heartfelt sharing, that was so deep and so personal and so vulnerable, and which allowed us to realize we were on a very sacred journey. So we're so grateful to be here. I think I'll just stop at that point, and then we'll introduce the trailer.
It was around 7 p.m. when I took Marvin to the hospital, to an emergency, because he's like, "I'm going to kill myself, Mom." And I was like, "Oh my God." And he just straight out said, "I hate this. I'm going to kill myself."
I like being alone, and yeah, I just wanted to be by myself. I wanted to hurt myself. I was like worried that I'd hurt other people if I can't hurt myself. When I was at Wildlife, I was introduced to a bird, a condor named Vidor. I was a little intimidated and nervous because it's such a big bird. I thought, it could hurt me if it really wanted to. But then we connected, like just his presence, it shocked me, and you could feel it. And I thought it was special. I was grateful for being there. It made me be silent. I think that is what really helped me understand what silence could do and how it could help you.
He said, that these animals, they can't talk, but some of them are hurt. Some of them feel sad, lonely. I feel like that, Mom.
He kind of like reminded me a lot of myself. He liked to be alone. I asked him questions about my life, and I asked if, everything would be better, if I would get better, and he answered my questions. I could tell he was listening. He might have experienced what I was experiencing. Just his presence itself was like, powerful.
But you know what? My kid is alive right now. My kid did not commit suicide. My kid did not end up in drugs, in gangs, anything like that. My son is alive. He comes here every Wednesday. He looks forward to it.
So, yeah, thank you. That was the trailer. And before we pose the seed question, we just wanted to honor the music composer for the film. His name is Alam Khan. And since this is an Indian audience, he is the son of the Sarod maestro Ali Akbar Khan. And his lineage goes to the 16th century through Mia Tansen in India. And Alam has been doing a really, he grew up here in California in Marin County, north of San Francisco. And so he grew up learning music from his father, Ali Akbar Khan's father, Ustad Baba Lauddin Khan, is of course the teacher for Pandit Ravi Shankar, who everybody knows. So he comes from that kind of a lineage. So he's sort of balancing, he continues to teach Indian Hindustani classical, as well as he's experimenting with a lot of traditions like rap and classical. And so he's just this amazing human being who came to us as a gift and blessing to compose the music for the film. So we just wanted to honor Alam Khan and his traditions. And then
Yeah, so we know you've all had a chance to watch the film, and so we really want to invite your reflections. And the seed question is, how did the film affect you internally? Or if you have any other specific reflections you'd like to share. So if you could unmute yourself and share your video, we would be very grateful. Thank you.
Okay, so when I saw the film, I saw the trailer first, and when I saw the trailer is what Sachi had sent, and when I saw the trailer, I was so eager to see the entire film, and I didn't know where to see the entire film, so I Googled it, and finally I reached the Karma link, which took me to the entire film. And when I started watching the film, it was so magical to me. Meaning I'm not. Let me be very honest. I'm not. Meaning I don't love animals. Let me put it that way. Right? I may be kind to animals, but I wouldn't really want an animal to come inside my house. Right? I may give them food, but I don't love them. Right? So then, like when I saw this, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And when I saw the kind of impact that had on children, it was amazing. It was like, wow. What I really liked about the whole thing was how much we could learn from animals, how we as human beings tend to rush through everything. And then in that rush to get to the destination, I think we don't enjoy the journey. And I saw how animals were so relaxed and calm and at ease. I also, during the film, realized how we always tend to judge everyone, not just children, but especially children. And I think as parents, we are very insecure about our children. And we're all the time trying to evaluate that whether they'll be able to be effective adults, whether they'll be able to earn, whether they'll be able to lead a comfortable life. And I think in the process, we just take all the fun out of childhood. And so something that I already believed in, but the film just reinforced, is I think we should just let our children learn to live absolutely freely and live in nature. And I'm sure they'll come out to be wonderful adults. And thank you so much. I mean, it was a great opportunity for me to see the film.
Thank you, Gautam. Thank you, Gautam. Yeah.
Namaste, everyone. I'm Divyan, and I think the line that stayed with me the most from the film, and it's also in the trailer, is a child telling that I understood the importance of silence. And we often seek our answers in the most conventional way of being spoken to, or being sort of deriving out of very logical sort of world perceived ways, and a child just getting his answers out of silence is so beautiful. And even we as adults in our journeys, we often overlook that fact and often want to seek answers to things in the most typical ways, so to say. And yeah, so that stayed with me the most. And I would just like to thank Anne and Rajesh for when I saw the film, I could feel how invisible you all were as makers, you know. And that's often a form or the sort of the driving urge to say something through the medium often overpowers the soul of the narrative. And I just want to thank you all for being extremely invisible through the process and just letting us soak in the soul of the work that John, Steve, and all of you all are doing there. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Divyang. And I think you rightly talked about silence being one of the most important things. So everything that John and Steve do is to really get the kids to that place. Like John says, once they get into that place of silence and they connect themselves to their heart, then he said, then the job is done, right? Then the work is over, right? Then they're never going to go back to their old ways ever again. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Yes, that was me, Sachi.
Yes.
That's me, Shailini. Yeah, hi. Namaste to a wonderful team, and thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this circle. I'm just so moved. I just want to say that the connection between human beings and animals is very real. I'm an animal lover, and I have been healed myself by animals. I've had some very difficult times in my life, and I've had to deal with my challenges entirely on my own. And what has healed me and helped me come out of it is animals. Unfortunately, in our country, we are not that compassionate. At least from what I have witnessed, people are not so compassionate towards animals. So, for example, people don't treat stray animals with kindness, and they shoo away sick animals, but don't care for them. And because I live in the city, I've seen this happen quite often. Now, so it would be good to at least help children get connected to animals, because the children need a future and they cannot exist without the role of the animals in the ecosystem. I just wish people would understand the importance of animals, every animal and bird around us, nature and wildlife in general. And people could understand that being connected to them would have such a healing effect on them that they will no longer feel small or insignificant about themselves. Thank you very much. I haven't seen the film yet, but I will definitely take a look.
Thank you, Shalini. Thank you for the sharing.
And thank you for the blessing of your tears.
So, thanks, Rajesh and Anne. And I'm moved. I'm moved beyond words. And I would really like to share my personal experience with you. And I'm right now in tears. Yesterday, I went to my daughter and I said sorry to her because I have been, I unknowingly body shamed her. I never intended to, but somehow both of us have gone through trauma. And after that, she put on a weight. And being a mother who was over caring about her, and I went, and it really touched me so inside that as soon as the film was over, I went inside and I just apologized her for everything. And I told her that from this point of onwards, if I body shame her again, though with good intentions in my heart, nothing bad intentions, but please stop me immediately. So I'm really, really thankful to you for making us as a parent understand that how unintentionally we hurt our children, and that kind of like those children when they were talking during the film, I going to back again and listen to those their the way they talked, because it was all very touching, and it really made a huge impact on me yesterday. Thanks, Rajesh and Sachi, and I'm really thankful to Swagata who actually introduced me to this. I'm really thankful to her from bottom of my heart. Thanks to everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Smita. Thank you.
Thank you, Smitaji. Next, we'll have Anuradha's share.
Thank you, Sachi, and greetings to everyone. Namaste.
Namaste.
I'm very thankful to my friend from the UNICEF, P. Lolichen, who introduced this circle to me, and he sent me a mail and saw that if I was free on Sunday, could I watch this? And I'm so thankful that he did that. And I'm very thankful for to the universe for making Steve and John happen. The film, I watched the film yesterday, and it was very moving. As a police officer, I'm a police officer in Madhya Pradesh. I'm an IPS officer from the Indian Police Service, and I have had this this problem. It is a problem, I must tell you, of our children, in conflict with law, adjusting to their lives, they're making a future, and this film opened a window. Really, I must congratulate Anne and Rajesh for such an intense experience. Not only was the film intense because of the subject, it was also intense because of the treatment. The camera was so sympathetic, the music was so correct, the narration was so heartfelt that it was an experience. And it's very rarely that you actually go through an experience when you watch a film. So I must thank you, Anne and Rajesh. It was very enriching, very, very enriching. Thank you so much. And I have been hearing these reactions right now, and I saw two of my sisters almost tearful. And some of us are very disheartened to see that people are not very kind to animals, even to street animals on the street in India, which John spoke of with such respect about India, and he looks towards India every morning when he looks at the sun. But when human beings have a struggle going on in their own lives, as we saw with Marvin's mother, when they have a struggle going on in their own lives, when they have to, they have to work hard to make ends meet, when they have to work hard to get a clean bed to sleep at night, it's very difficult to see beyond themselves. So let's not judge anyone, as this film tells us. Let's not judge people who are not able to respect our fellow creatures on the streets or in the wild, because we need an opportunity, and we also need trailblazers like Steve and John, and so many of us who are here, and especially those who are feeling this tug in their heart. Many of us can follow in those footsteps. There is a Sanskrit saying, Mahajano yen gata sapantha. The road, the correct road is on which great examples have walked. And great examples have walked in this country. You know, Mahatma Gandhi has walked in this country without taking cudgels for animals. He was an animal lover. He served animals all his life. And coming from a culture where you need to drink milk every day, he forwent having milk. So we come from that culture, that background. So I'm very inspired, and I'm going to talk to people about, I do not know how much I can do, but I'm going to talk to people about doing something about this, so that we can take and you've all been an inspiration. Steve and John are, as I said, they are an incredible gift from the universe to all of us, and this film is an amazing vehicle for telling us about this gift. Thank you so much, Sachi, for bringing all this together. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anuradhaji.
Thank you, Anuradhaji. Thank you so much for the sharing. And also talking about Steve and John, I just wanted to quickly add that the way they work together is that, their ego selves disappear, right? They're both come at it from the point of the children. And like Anne always talks about how both Steve and John, they see only the good parts of the child and try to amplify that. So it's been a really blessing to see how two, extremely knowledgeable people, extremely good people, but very, very rarely do you get to see those kinds of people come, and essentially they want to step into the background and make the children, the foreground.
And we also just want to thank you and everyone on the call that come from so many diverse backgrounds working with children. It is such an honor for us to get to know your work. And Sachi has been very gracious to send us information about the different organizations. Right. And so we hope this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. We'll work together, surely.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think as John and Steve will talk about later, it doesn't have to, this work doesn't have to happen in the context of wild animals. It can happen, like you said, starting with as simple as being kind to a dog on the street, right?
One is that it's difficult to put it in words, what stirred and still is stirring in me. But I know that definitely the one bit that touched me the most was where in the film you say that just reflect the best of that person, the truest form, and when that's reflected back, they don't want to go back to being anyone else. And I know in that moment, what happened for me was to flash through my head of the times when I have been and I have been able to do that and I have not been able. And first was when I have not been able to do that. And there was this sense of a very strong criticizing of myself. I feel like, you've been working with young people for so long and so on and everything. And I haven't done it 100%. That was the first instinct that came in for me. But I think what helped was your words helped me shine that light on myself as well and say, okay, how can I see myself like that? And unless I begin to do it here and now, in this moment. Right now, I'm with only one person, and that's me. So, can I see that? And that brought in times when I have been able to do that. When really my heart has just split open, and gone out and seen the beauty in another person, and celebrated it and embraced it with all its dances. So I'm extremely thankful for that, and I feel the way it has stirred me, it's something that will carry on. And we've been talking about children, but right now I've been spending the last 7-8 months with a granny. She's 84, 85, and she's lovable, but she's also, I get exasperated sometimes, I have to be honest. And I was thinking, I think what came in my heart immediately was that what is the innocence in her, which is still alive, completely alive, and what do I see when that light shines on her, of what's the most beautiful bit of her. So to practice it right here and right now is what I was inspired by, and I'm sure I'll take it into work and world, but right now I'm with this granny and with myself. So can I begin that? Was the deep inspiration that I carried. And of course I felt very called to just, I almost felt like I should break into the screen and go and be there where you were. So who knows, maybe someday the call of that sense of home that Annie said, right? I would love to someday be able to do that if it happens. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You would welcome that. Yeah, beautiful teachings. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I just want to tell that, like everyone is saying, the entire film was a lot to just take in at once. Maybe you have to watch it like multiple times to absorb the full length of it. But I am just in awe and in humbleness for the people who are working there. The team that they have there, just being able to find that team was like a blessing. This feeling that everyone who was talking in the video, all the elders, they have that understanding that needs to be there. And there was that particular instant that I want to carry with me, and that's going to be like a reflection, an everyday reflection probably, is the story of that owl. The story of making the owl feel at home. It's like not telling someone anything, just giving that space, giving that presence, and giving that silence. We all know inside how to heal, but probably we don't find that space. We don't give that space to others. So I realized that no matter where you are, you have to just be that space, and probably sometimes to be that space for yourself as well. And that's all that healing needs. So yeah, that's like too close to me. Thank you for everything. Like, thank you for bringing that up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shravani. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Thank you. With this, John, I hand it over back to you, and we just invite all the circle participants to come in to turn on their videos. Or we may probably have to help them do that. Give us a minute to set up.
Y'all are looking good. Good morning. You think we're ready?
Just a second. I think we're waiting on one more person. Professor Wade is here?
Yep.
Yeah, we can see you. So I'm only missing Sohail sir, which I don't know where he is. Okay. Maybe we can start, and if he joins in, John, then we'll add him in.
Well, my teacher went through 1,400 different signs, symbols, to discover the circle was the one that's in all cultures. And the circle has to be built in our life, whether it's music, whether it's math, whether it's relationships, whether it's blood cells. So the circle is where I've lived my life. Sometimes at the expense maybe of one-to-one relationships, but then after some serious injuries, I came back to balance. But the circle, there's no place to hide in the circle. Everyone's equal in the circle. And when we each do our part, we have a wholeness about us. Lately, I've been finding myself saying, if you take the I out of illness and put we in its place, then we have wellness. So there's a lie that's been floated around since psychology was invented, and that is we are alone. We've never been alone. It's impossible to be alone. Just look at the trees behind Archie. You know, it's like the lungs of Mother Earth is there. We are always being taken care of by the natural world. There's a harmony that we cannot interrupt. We can cut down a forest, we can do all of that, but Earth just is restorative. So when we're in circle, we always leave an opening to the east. So anyone can enter. And we leave the door to the east open on purpose so anyone can enter. There's always gatekeeper to circles for safety, for respect. So the circle today, there's 4 elements that need to be respected. One is silence. Silence is the #1 healer. Doesn't matter where you go, silence is a healing agent. #2 is storytelling. You all are the source of so many stories, many holy stories, but not only holy stories, like stories that tell us to lose our arrogance and pick up humility, you know, to learn from a monkey, these sorts of things. So we're going to start with storytelling. Each of you speaks for so many other people. You don't just speak for yourself. So you're bringing your medicine to the story. Keep the story positive. It's a positive story. And Sachi, are you there?
Yes, John.
Yeah, I would like you, to make sure we have the order of the story. So you will just call a person, first person, second person, third person, until everyone has added to the story.
Sure.
Can you do that for me?
Yes, I'll just paste an order on the chat. And is that okay, John?
Whatever you know better than I
Sure.
do. I'm used to sitting in a circle and then we just go the way of the sun.
Yes, absolutely. I'll do that.
Their turn. So bring all of yourself to the story. I know you're a holy person. I know there's a part of you that is so pure that no one could ever hurt you there. You can always go to that place. And when you can bring that to a story, then our group story is going to have serious medicine. You're also a hero. All of you have overcome many, many, many obstacles. And you're here today, and even after all the obstacles, you still want to serve. So you are a living example to children that pain serves a purpose. It's purification. It's not to suffer because there's something wrong with you. That's a very misunderstood concept. And in my tradition, we do hard things so we become stronger, so we can become better servants, not because we have defects. So bring all of yourself to the story. It does not have to fit the original narrative. That it's a vertical narrative we're often given. Or a woman bites an apple, so she's thrown out into the world to suffer and pass on that generational pain. We want to break that narrative in our story. So once upon a time, a village council, that's you. You make up the village council. You came together to show your concern for the state and the plight of local youth. You spoke about things that had never been tried or spoken of before. Or you spoke of things that had been forgotten and with time to revisit. And the first person can go, Sachi.
May I invite Sonia to go first?
Okay. Somehow I knew this was coming. Being for okay, so
Once upon a time.
So once upon a time, I was given a chance to speak up and share my story. And so I shared about the ancestors that comes to visit me in the 21st century from the other realm and guides me of how to be on this planet. And because they were invisible, it was very difficult for me to share with the world their voices. So through my voice, which they couldn't believe because I was timid, I was seen as petite, I was seen as a short Muslim girl. It was hard for me to, I kind of lowered my voice, but I continued to do my inner work, and I continued to pass on the chain of the wisdom to the world through healing. That's about it.
Oh.
Go with the flow of the story. Go with the flow of the story.
Okay, so once upon a time, there was a girl who was 10 and who was dealing with a lot of pain, who was dealing with fear, who was alone in a battle in trying to run away from someone who was trying to exploit her. And sometimes she could run away, sometimes it was difficult, but she fought on, and somehow the universe had enough love and strength that it gave to her, and she turned all of that pain and fear into the courage to understand the pain of other children, girls and boys who struggled and who tried to express their pain but couldn't, and she made it the work of her life to understand and try to heal that pain.
Nimisha, you feel complete?
Yes.
Okay. John, if you don't mind, can I just read out the order so everybody knows who's going before and after?
That would be wonderful. Yeah. And then everyone just stay with the flow of the story, honor the person in front of you. Yeah.
Great. So Sonia, Nimisha, Gautam, Bharti, Arijit, Timira, Kushi, Shilpa, Swagata, Roy, Professor Ved, and Divyang. Gautam, you're up next.
So once upon a time, I used to teach in a school, and I thought that schools were wonderful places where children learned and were institutions that were meant for picking up knowledge and wisdom. But having worked there for a few years, I just realized how far from truth that was. What I saw was pain and misery and children wanting to play but not allowed to play, somebody wanting to do art but had to do something else. And I just thought that the Indian Constitution guarantees equality and justice to all Indian citizens. And I just thought that I wondered if children were citizens of this country. To me, that was a very painful experience. I wondered if one day my own children would have to go through this kind of experience. And I'm glad that I had the courage to to see the wrong that was happening there. And I'm glad that I had the courage to walk another path where, and I'm glad that very soon we'll be starting a learning center where children will have the freedom to live their own life, to live the way they want to learn what they want to, and to be by nature. I think that nature is such a great healer. And so I'm so glad that I'm doing this. And we are going to be living in a community, and I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so once upon a time, there was this little girl, quite like my friend Nimisha, uh, who has had a lot of traumatic experiences of different degrees at different points of time. And every time it's been like you move 2 steps forward and then 5 steps back. You again get up and move 2 steps forwards and then again 5 steps back. And a lot of factors playing in that, from home to school to everything around you. Everything has had a role to play in this. And so this person has actually never ever been able to meditate, because every time this person gets down to meditation, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. There are thoughts that are there all the time and don't go away. And therefore, the circle for this person is like an experiment at the moment, something that this person would like to try out and see whether this helps. So it's again, probably, I don't know, coming from some kind of apprehension about what will work, whether this will work, whether there's anything that can really help. And yeah, that's it. That's it from my side.
John, may I come in?
Yes.
John, I wanted to share, would you like to clarify that this is a group story, or shall we go with the flow?
It's meant to be a group story. I should have made it more like that. Instead of an individual story, it's a we story, not an I story, to back up that concept we're all connected. So, Sonia, like you started us off so beautiful. That was a story of pain, but it led into something else. All of a sudden, that girl had transformed. So it's meant to be a transformative story. So we play off of the person in front of us. We continue that story, and that story ends up in a different spot than it started. So yeah, that's good. So we'll just go right from there with the next person, if that's okay with everyone. Is that okay with everyone?
Thank you.
Yeah, I got one. Okay, yeah, we're good. We're good. Thank you for your honesty there, Sachi. That's beautiful. Maybe we need to be reminded of the order.
Bharti Didi went last. Thank you for sharing, Bharti Didi. And next, I think we have Arijit Da.
Thank you, Sachi. Yes, lot of pain. Similarly, like that girl, there was a boy once upon a time of 17, 18 years old who was subjected to sudden boycott and no repression from the family and from the close friends and family. And because he could not able to succeed in one of his exams of higher secondary exam and faced several uh, kind of several kind of regression from the own family members and friends, and like this his confidence level was also very low. He couldn't able to concentrate even on anything, spend time separately, and started uh, was addicted to some certain kind of substance. And then one day he was given a chance to migrate to a place where I am sitting right now, in between the nature, quite close to the nature. And I was given a chance to work in a space with the children, whom I think is almost similar to like the film that I have seen, like the non-judgmental animals. And I have given a chance to work with them and found myself close to a nature again. And again is what the new journey begins. From that, I've given a chance to speak out my inner voices. And right now I'm sitting behind you all, and what I am today is all that the chance that I have been given. I think that's all. Thank you.
Meera. Thank you, Arijita.
Thank you, Arijit. I'd like to take the story ahead. So, this little girl and this little boy magically meet in this beautiful nature where Arijit is sitting. And they're sitting under a tree one fine morning. The sun is shining bright and hot in India. And they discover a piece of chalk at the bottom of the tree. And it's a strange bit of chalk. There's just one. And they both kind of glanced at it at the same time. So they don't know who it belongs to now. So they decide to share that piece of chalk. And they discover that though it looks like a simple piece of white chalk, it has something in it which they are yet to discover. So they start walking around and seeing what they can do with that piece of chalk. And they come across a huge banyan tree. It's so large that you don't know where the main trunk of that tree is. So they're just walking around in the middle of that banyan tree, wondering if it's a root or a bark that's coming from the sky down to the earth. And as they swing from one branch and one root to the other, they discover a really, really thick part of the tree, which they assume is the trunk. And they start putting the chalk to test. And they start drawing. And they each decide that they get only one turn each. So if the girl gets one chance to draw one thing, the next turn is the boy's. And that's where the game begins. Yeah, I'm done. I think the next person can take it ahead.
Next is Kushi.
Thank Thanks for putting a crazy spin to that. Now, the most underdeveloped part of my brain, which is the creative part, has to start quickly thinking. So I'm going to use some of the silence that I think I'm permitted to use. And yeah, so the boy and the girl have started, each of them have taken their turns, and they see that somehow magically the chalk is drawing on its own. And through that, the girl goes first, and she sees that the chalk is somehow making her draw herself. I mean, it's moving, guiding her hands. And she sees that it's kind of making an image of the person who had harmed her. And while making this image, what she also realizes that this person is not someone who's scary anymore and who doesn't have power over her anymore, and that she doesn't need to fear the person. And it almost feels like she has more power over the person now than when she was experiencing the harm. And then it's the boy's turn. The boy takes the chalk from the girl, and uh, he starts drawing. And again, his hand is guided by the chalk, and the image of the person that the girl had made magically becomes, again, it's the chalk that's allowing him to is guiding him to draw. And on the trunk of this beautiful tree, the boy is guided to make an image of a beautiful space that's positive and bright and happy, and where everyone is living equally without fear. I'm going to stop here and hand it over to Shilpa. Thank you.
Thanks, Kushi. Shilpa is not here, so I'll go next. As both of them sit below the tree and admire its majestic size, power, strength, there is a gust of wind and it starts to rain. It soon becomes a violent storm, and for a bit they are scared of what's to come. But they see the tree standing tall. Maybe a few branches break, but the root is still on the ground. And that gives them hope that no matter what storms come their way, there will be parts of themselves that will stay rooted.
And then they come across a few other kids who've been caught up in the storm.
Wow.
And there's one boy who sees the brokenness of the tree. And in that brokenness, he sees something that reminds him of himself, that makes it okay for him to acknowledge that he is also broken. Broken, and yet is still standing. broken but not destroyed, broken and yet still strong. And he looks around and he sees the others, the other kids, and he sees them with new eyes. He sees them not as perfect people that he can ever match up to, not as bigger people, superior people that he will never be good enough to match. He sees them not as competitors, but he sees them as broken people themselves, each one carrying some pain, some hurt, and yet each person also carrying a beautiful heart, also carrying strength and resilience. And suddenly there was this realization of all the kids looking at each other, realizing that we don't have to compete anymore, and that we all have a story, we all have hurt, and that together with the banyan tree, with nature, we're survivors. Together we can rise, we can find our strength, our power, and just our okayness. That we can just be as we are. And each of us is okay, each of us is beautiful, and even each of us has a role in this much bigger scheme of things. Thank you.
The rain had stopped. The sun was shining. Everybody was feeling a connectedness. They all joined hands and started circling around the tree, singing in joy and realizing that we're all there together, whether survivors or whether non-survivors, the others who need help, the others who can provide help. They were all together and they were all happily singing. We are together, we will win. We are happy, we have a bright future. Thank you.
And while circling around the tree with hands joined, and the storm now over, the sun shining, the first two kids saw that what they'd drawn with the chalk on the bark is now not there anymore. The water washed it away, and they sort of, it was an unsaid, unspoken feeling between them that their wounds and what they put forth is now erased. It's impermanent, and suddenly, they wanted to share this experience with all the kids. So they said, let's all start drawing again. So when they all, with the chalk, approached the tree, they all heard something collectively. It was not a spoken word, but it was a cluster of ants that were hidden in the bark that have just started coming out. And they said, we don't like this. We don't like this chalk. And it was we who called upon the storm to erase it because we don't like it. So suddenly, they all of them had this realization that our harmony, our circle is not just restricted to us, and we have to take into account the ant and the tree itself. And so their circle became wider, and suddenly their consciousness grew, and they were able to sort of connect with everything and every element that was around, and sort of take that into account while rejoicing their newfound freedom.
our story complete, Sachi?
Yes, John.
Yes. So let's just bless the story with a moment of silence. Thank you. And obviously, this is a medicine story. This isn't a pathological story. This isn't a war story. This isn't an institutional story. This isn't a well-worn condition story. This is a breakthrough story. It's a rainbow story. This is our group story. It has many teachings. So what are some of the teachings our story has for the children that we're including in our community? Anyone can speak when you're ready. Just speak to your family here.
I think there were parts of the story which were talking about children who are abused, who are lonely. And there are parts of the story which says that healing lies in connecting with others.
Thank you.
And there are people who are there to support. One has to just reach out. One has to find that acceptability, that whether you are healing, whether you are paining, you are part of a bigger world, and everybody's there. There are a lot of people there to with whom you can trust and you can relate to. It's important to connect.
And that's the whole point of circles. Thank you. Let's just keep adding our knowledge, our wisdom to the what was in that story. Because this is our group story. We're taking this into the community.
Can I speak, John?
Yes.
Thank you. What I feel very, very strongly right now is, I mean, it's I think it is wonderful how we started out with, I mean, maybe a misunderstanding, but like the individual stories, but we weaved them into the story of all of us. And it just reminded me again that we are all those little boys and little girls.
Yes.
We are all the ones who were in pain and walking alone, and then we found each other. And now we are all, together, holding hands and walking forward. So it's, I mean, and as you said, like it's the circle today, which again, it reminds me so powerfully of that.
Isn't it beautiful? We can just be ordinary people, no one's special, and yet we can have this incredible human moments when we're authentic, when we just stay true to ourselves. And what's true about ourselves is that we are holy and that we are great, we are heroes, we're all of those things. We got to bring our shadow to the table. We got to bring our shadow to the work. There's nothing wrong when the sun goes down. It keeps the balance. So to watch you all is mesmerizing. There was no competition. There was total cooperation. There was no shame or guilt because someone's story was an individual story. That was really important. You know, I really honor Sonia going first. And all of a sudden, you gave voice to the story. You honored the ancestors. So there's so much here. If someone wants to add more, feel free. And at some point, I thought you had like a time check. How much more time we have?
John, we have 10 minutes.
Okay, great.
Timira wants to go next.
Yeah. Thank you, John. I'd really like to go back to the story because I thought it was quite interesting. And I really felt that Divyang, the last person who talked about the ants, I thought it was a very interesting idea because we tend to forget that sometimes in our own freedom or our joy to find our own freedom, our own expression, we may unintentionally be oppressors to somebody else. And I really, it hit me so hard when Divyang said that. So Divyang, thank you for bringing the ants into the story because the ants crawled out of the bark and said, I don't like the chalk. And I think that was a really powerful moment in the story because we forgot that the chalk could bring us freedom and expression, but it could take away somebody's expression as well. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, the chalk lady and the Ant-Man meet. You know, this story should keep showing up and it can really develop. You all know each other now at a different level. You know, you see the roles, the titles, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is the authenticity, which always leads to connection, which leads to meaning. And so you're bringing meaning to your community by allowing, you don't have to control anything. I know nothing, seriously, except how to listen. And where did I learn to listen? It wasn't from another human necessarily. How about that owl that's silent at night and has feathers all the way down so it can fly so quietly, but the presence of the owl, the wisdom of the owl. So the animals came first. I was so relieved when an ant showed up in the story. I said, oh, good. At this point, I would like you all to point out a person. We could say good things about everyone, but point out a person that really struck your soul, how they said the story or what they added to the story or just what came across. Like I would start off like with Roy, I felt like, man, if I was standing in circle, I'd always call on Roy for a prayer. You know, this prayer of equality was amazing. I felt I was back in the civil rights movement. You know, we had protests then. We didn't have any broken windows, nothing. We were disciplined. We were praying. We weren't protesting. We were for something, not against something. So Roy, I'll start off with you. Thank you for your prayer. Anyone can go next and point someone out because sometimes if it's too general, it's not as powerful. You don't leave the rest of us out when you point out someone else. We're all happy for that person.
So I'll
You're
go
pointing
next.
out their medicine, yes. Yeah.
I really liked what Divyang said, is how the storm and the rain erased all the angst. I've always felt that we should try and bring out the happy moments out of anything rather than reflect upon what's gone, what is not good in life. I think it's the happy moments that we should look forward to and recollect and remember more. surely we need to learn from the pain and whatever has gone wrong. But we should be very happy and be grateful for all the joy and the happiness in life. Even through this pandemic, I think we should try and seek out all the good things and just kind of learn from the not so good things and just leave them behind, but be happy for whatever life has to offer.
I hope you're feeling better. I know you're in a recovery mode.
Oh yeah, I'm feeling great. Thank you so much. I'm doing excellent. Thanks.
Thank you for your participation. You're a brave man.
I'd like to go next, please. I'd like to thank Timira for bringing the boy and the girl together, because when we come together, it's our collective strength and it's our collective wisdom and our collective failures and successes, our happiness, our joys, our sorrows that make it easier through the journey. And knowing that somebody else has been through good times and bad, and to be able to stand together even without speaking about it, because I don't remember the boy and the girl speaking about their whatever they've experienced, but just being together was enough to for them to begin a new journey together. And I think it's really, really essential for all of us, especially the ones who are working with young people, to remind ourselves what childhood was like, and to remind ourselves that childhood actually can be a beautiful time, but unfortunately, with the kind of pressure that we're putting on young people these days, we're taking away from the absolute joys of just being a child or being a young person. I remember that while there were difficult times as a young person or as an adolescent, there were just amazing, magical, joyous moments that I still go back to during difficult times. Yeah, so thanks to Timira for bringing the two of them together. Thank you.
I also want to comment on Timira's twist. I thought she was very creative. She was very imaginative, and she opened up lots of positive conversations, possibilities with that twist with the chalk, the magical quality of the chalk, and that kind of. Well, I thought it was very creative.
Can I? Or Arijit, are you going next?
No, Bharti, please carry on.
No, I just wanted to add to what's being said, to say that, the shift from the I to the we, I think that importance of the need to shift from the I to the we has stayed with me through this session. So I'm thankful to everyone who have shared what they wanted to and then taken us through this journey from I to the we. Thank you.
Arjit, do you want to end this part for us, if you choose to?
Yeah, I also like to thank Timira for shifting the whole story from I to we. And also, I found it very interesting that the story of Timira actually act as a bridge between the despair and the hope. And then comes Divyang, who actually showed us the hope with the ant story and all these things. And I would like to thank everybody for the whole story.
You each played such a part. Don't underestimate the part you played. We have too much tendency to isolate certain things. Ever since science was invented, we separate things instead of braid and bond. But all your stories blended together. It's a beautifully blended story. I was sitting here thinking, see why we look to the east, see why we look to you all. I'm taking home all sorts of things when I go back and work with children on Tuesday. I'm taking you with me. Taking you with me. That's a promise. I want to honor the timing, but I want to tell you what we didn't get to a little bit, because maybe you can take this forward. But these are questions to honor who you are. What do people sense of you? An animal has senses. Steve will be talking about that. But what do people sense of you when you walk in a room, when you participate in a circle? What if you looked at everyone as holy and a hero? What would change between you two? What makes for a sacred spirit space workplace? What do you want to manifest for kids? What my legacy really is creating safe places. That's what I know how to do. I don't know much more than that. Where do you go to get direction? I'm raised on 4 directions. Each direction teaches me something. North, south, east, and west. I've been taught to start in the east and then go to the south, then the west, and then the north. But I was pretty much raised on the northern direction. Each direction has medicine. And when you've finished all 4 directions, that's called your earth walk. Can you bring out the holy and hero in others? When have you felt overlooked or unseen or dismissed? Is your thinking institutionalized, overconditioned, entrapped? What's your inside spark? Can you get a kid to trust again, or a human being? What answers are you looking for that a human hasn't been able to answer? Thank you for opening my heart. Thank you for cleaning my heart. Thank you for filling my heart. And thank you for reminding me I have a strong heart. And with that, I would like to give it back to Sachi.
Thank you, John, and thank you everyone who participated in the circle. This was really, really, really special. And I know we all can feel it in our heart. So I'm really grateful to everybody to make this possible. John, I was wondering, we wanted to hand it over to Pavi Didi for Q&A, but I'm almost missing Steve's voice. And so I was wondering if this is a good time for us to hand it over to Steve for a bit.
And I was going to bring in Steve. Yes, for Steve, would you tell this group of people why you love them?
I love you because you're a human being. And you have the same miracle as I do, life. We forget that living is the miracle. We're all looking for something to fall out of a tree and hit us in the head. or we're looking for something to come around the corner and be a sign. The sign is you came out of your mother screaming. That was the sign. I'm here. I'm alive. Yeah, you are. I am so grateful to have this existence and to share it with other human beings. Whoa, when I was a kid, I wasn't sure about that. I wasn't too sure about the human beings. I was watching them and I didn't really know if I should trust them or not. But then one group of humans didn't build a house in a little field that was behind my home that I was raised in. Not a large field. And I went into that field every day after work. Every single day. Because my true friends were there. That I knew, that I trusted. Robins, the snakes on the ground, the hawks flying by, the opossums at night, the skunks that came by, the deer during the day. And this is just a lot where a house was, maybe 60 by 60 feet, maybe a little bigger. And then after being there for a number of years, I was hanging by one branch. I was in 3rd grade. I was hanging by a branch by my legs, upside down, watching the mother lay the eggs. The mother robin lay the eggs. I was upside down looking at it. I was going, this is cool. She did this. She let me get that close. She trusted me. And I went there every day and watched the mother feed the babies. And one day they left me alone. Usually the mother gets the food, then she sits there and the father gets the food. They both left. And I was there. I said, oh my God, they left me here. I can't go anywhere. My mother's screaming, time for dinner. And I didn't answer. And she got really upset. So you're going to get it when you get in the house. I said, okay, the worst thing can happen, but I can't leave these babies because she entrusted me with that trust that her babies would be okay. And I made sure they were. And then one day I came home from school and there was some black smoke coming out of something. And there was a loud noise like a bulldozer. So I ran. A bulldozer, somebody bought that property. And that bulldozer crushed the babies and killed them as they're knocking the tree down. That bulldozer killed everything under the ground. I ran in front of it as fast as I could. I was this little redheaded, freckled kid about this tall. And the only thing I think of is Superman. He was my favorite super person that was doing good in the world, Superman. And I ran in front of the bulldozer. And I put my hand out like this, like Superman would do. And he stopped. Luckily, he saw me, he would have crunched me. But he stopped. And then he started jerking forward like he wanted to scare me. I just walked closer to him until I put my hand out and said, you are killing the planet. You are killing the animals. How can you do that? How can you live like that? These are my family. These are my friends. He goes, what? And he gets out of the truck because he thinks maybe I'm talking about a person. He goes, you dumb kid, that's just a bird. He says, yeah, but he trusted me. He gave me trust. He loved me. They played with me. And you killed them. So for a long time, I didn't trust people. At least what were they going to do? And I said, but I can't let that be a barrier. I told the birds before I left that, after the bulldozer guy was there, I said, I will spend my whole life teaching people so they understand that we're all related. We're all related. These are all my relations. You only have a fruit fly is only 2% different in our DNA than us humans, a fruit fly. 98% the same DNA. Fruit fly. A dog, I think it's about 80%. We have the original space dust in our blood that the Big Bang came out and came into us. We are all biologically connected. All of us humans, an ant. I don't know about the chalk, but an ant. And these are the creatures that are teaching us. I've been so graced with a life to have so many mentors. I want to show you one mentor, see if I can do this. That is Susie Bear. We're kind of wrestling. She was such an amazing being, 330 pounds, born to take care of the babies, the mother is. She'll do anything. She will kill to protect the babies. She will start new relationships to protect the babies. Powerful beings. Susie Bear was her parents were killed by poachers. She was chased off a cliff, and someone found her. They were hiking up the trail, took all their expensive camping gear, threw it out, put her in a backpack, and took her into town to a veterinary hospital, where she was taken care of for about 2 or 3 months, needed lots of surgeries. And then she was given to a lady who used animals in motion pictures. So Susie Bear has been in about 24 different films before she passed away a few years back. And Susie Bear taught me so much. She taught me to be a human being. She taught me to stand my ground when I have to stand my ground. The first day I brought her back, and she was about 330 pounds when she came to me, because this lady had her for about 10 years, and she lived with me for about 15, 20 years. And she knew what was happening around her. She was very aware of what was happening around her on many different levels. And the first day I walked in with her, she stood up on her hind legs, 330 pounds of bear, and she started coming toward me going, which in bear language means, you're dead. And I didn't run out of the enclosure. If I did run out of the enclosure, I would probably never be able to be with her again. Because she would look at me and say, you're not worth it. You're not ready to stand your ground with me. You go, don't come back. But I walked toward her yelling, no, no. And she's coming toward me going, yes, yes. And then without thinking, I hauled off with a flat hand, bopped her on the nose. I went, oh my God, now I'm going to die. And she sat down next to me, leaned against me, and looked up in my face as if to say, Steve, you'll do. Let's see where this relationship goes. You'll do. And she taught me to stand my ground. She taught me to be honest, because she knew when you're honest and weren't honest. She knew. And she taught me that. So these animals are related to us in a true biological sense. But even more than that, our hearts are the same. We see similarity, because a lot of animals do not see, smell, taste, hear, or think the way we do. If you were transported into a wild animal's body, you probably would not be able to figure out what was going on, and some people would go insane, because you don't realize that not every creature is like us exactly. They're all like us because there's something to relate to within us and the animals. And that's the magic of life to me. When there's a creature there, well, this will explain it. I live on the same ranch, and I sit on the porch a lot, and a bunch of deer come by all the time for years. And there was this female who was always kicked around and beat up by the other deer, and she would hang out near the door, 5, 6 feet away from me and sleep, because she knew she was safe there and she wanted to be protected. Well, the time went by. Now she has 2 babies, twins, and they've been there on the ranch for 2 years. And just today, She came up with both of them onto the porch, literally 3 feet away from me, and just stood there and looked at me. Big black eyes, those deer have, just beautiful black eyes. A female deer and a male deer and then a mama deer. And then for the last couple of weeks, there's a new deer that I knew before, and it has huge antlers, big, huge antlers. Well, he's chasing all the women around. And he was chasing mom around. So she came around the corner. She looked at me. She looked at the baby. She looked at him. She goes, "Will you babysit for me?" And she ran off to be with the male with the antlers, ran into the bushes, and the baby just sat there. So I chopped up some apples, and I tossed apples on the ground, and they were very, very happy because it was a hot day. And the mother came back about a half hour later and picked the babies up and looked at me and said, "Busy life. Thank you very much." These are the relationships we can have. But not if you're in a hurry. Not if you don't really pay attention. You can be sitting there looking at the deer and you're not paying attention. You're thinking about Mars. You just have to look and be focused. It's just such wonder in this life. I mean, look at all these billions and billions of creatures and different species that live all over this planet, and look at all the humans. We all look different in many ways. It's amazing how here we are on this planet. How'd the planet get here? 1 billion years? How big is that? 1 billion? This is a miracle, this existence. And these animals know it. They live their life to the fullest. Is there anything else?
Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
You just left us speechless. I don't even know how to say anything more after this. It's really, and I mean, I've heard some of these stories before from you and also read them, but each time you say, there is so much connection and passion that it touches each time I hear it. A different chord maybe, but yes. Thank you. John, shall we open for Q&A? Okay, so we will now open for question and answer and reflections, which I would like to invite Pavi Didi to moderate. Can I request circle participants to go off video so that whoever is asking questions, they can then come in and share. Pavi Didi, over to you. Pavi Didi is amazing author, writer.
I don't need an introduction. Let's go. We've got little time, so let's focus on the questions. Thank you, Sachi.
Thank you.
What a beautiful circle and fishbowl. And I know there must be different questions from each of you going back to when you first watched the film or from anything that you witnessed today. So please feel free to either put your questions in the chat or to raise your hand. And then come on to video. So I'll keep an eye out for any hands here. All right, got them. Go ahead. You'll need to unmute. Perfect.
Yeah. So I don't have a question, but I have a request to make. It would be great if we could end with Steve playing the instrument that he was playing right at the beginning. I thought that was wonderful. Yeah. So Steve, a request if you could do that, please. Thanks.
Wonderful request. Steve plays the flute for those of you who may not know.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm Radhi from Mumbai, and I've loved the discussion that we've had so far. I'm an urban kid who's tried to wash away the influences of the city by living as much as I could with the indigenous people in communities and working in the space of education environment. And my question is very simple. I have worked with all ages of people, and in the first half of this entire discussion that we had, I was weeping because I have concerned myself over the past decade and worked primarily with adults to see what we can do to change their mindset. While working with children is really important, while healing and restoring is really important, I wanted to know from everyone here on the team, how important do you think it is to actually engage adults who are in the spaces of power and influence and opinion creation and whatever else to grow again in love with nature and everything that surrounds us? So, anyone who would like to answer that question?
Were you indicating people in power, or was that part of the question?
Yes, that. And adults in general, people who've had more years of experience behind them. You need not be a politician, but just somebody who has a voice and resources. How important is it to engage adults in the space of recognizing how deeply intertwined all of us are?
Well, I really believe parents get cheated in how they're presented. Most adults get, we see one side. So I like seeing 360 degree of any person. We don't have to agree, but we have to be fair with everyone. So everyone has a history. So I just believe in group work, and the group is our teacher. Each person's a mirror. So I run a support group for the last 45 years for adults. Started off as a parent group, now it's a community group. So we may have a convict walk right out of prison, fresh out of prison, sit in a group. We might have a 17-year-old is going to have a child. We don't discriminate who's in the group. And basically the surprise that people find is the group's not topical and it's a process. So we just process with questions like the ones I indicated. We just process that. Everyone has a chance. You can pass if you want to pass, or you can vomit it up however you want to do it. So we're not selling anything, but the point is, if you know yourself very well, you will treat others very well. If you don't know yourself,
Okay, it looks like we lost John momentarily there. We will we'll give him a moment to get back on. And in the meantime, I'm going to go to Smita, who has her hand raised.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. There are two questions. If there's time, you can answer. Otherwise, let's see. One question is not related exactly to the circle process, but when I was hearing to the introduction of in the beginning with and I could understand that John works with like 5 schools, and I hear when work with the government, and always like there has been lot of talk about like working with 100 thousands like numbers. We are like all the time worried about numbers, and I could see like he works only with the 5 schools. Like it's amazing. So I was just wondering that like this micro to macro, no, how do I like I was really amazed to hear that he works with 5 schools, because we don't respect people who work in such small numbers. We generally like respect people who like works with 1,000 schools, 100 schools, that coverage and numbers and all that. So that was one question, that how does he look at his own work, like working with just 5 schools and with such a 45 years of huge experience, how does he look at this number, small number one? And secondly, there was question that like you may call me biased, but yes, I have seen some people who have been very kind to animals, very kind, and but at the same time, when it comes to individuals or persons, they're not kind. They become very unkind. They become very, their reactions to them are sometimes very violent. So I just fail to understand that how a person who was just loving his dog so much, caring and loving, when he comes to his house with whom, how can he be so rude to his children or to his wife or whatever? So these are two questions, that why there is then such a, we have just seen that how children get transformed while working with animals, then why this kind of opposite reaction we see. So these are two questions, but again, at the same time, if you have time, you please answer.
Wonderful. Maybe, thank you, Smita. I'm going to, just in the interest of time, I'm going to go to the second question that you asked and have Steve maybe address that briefly. Steve, to that question of people treating animals better than they might be able to treat humans, what's your response there?
Treating animals better than they treat humans?
People who may be really nice to their dog, but struggle to be nice to, say, their next door neighbor or their family.
I'd say that dog has a lot of work to do, but they love it. I think they know, and they really love to help and spend that time and energy. Could you imagine that person without the dog? Maybe there would have been 4 less people on the planet. We don't know what this person would do. But it's like sitting there in meditation. So voices come through. Do you give up? No, you sit. You sit a day, a week, a month, a year. You sit. And then one day, okay, here's an example. There was this lady who practiced meditation for 5 years, and she was able to find her master, and she said that, this is a true question, she said to the master, why I'm not experiencing anything. I sit there and I spend an hour in the morning and an hour at night, and I've been doing this for a couple of years, and nothing's happening. And this master said, well, do you feel good? Oh yeah, I feel great. And there's nothing going on in my life because I can't meditate. He goes, no. How are you really feeling? And she goes, oh, I'm feeling really, really good. I'm happy. And he just smiled. And she kept going on, and she wouldn't see that. And all of a sudden she stopped and she goes, oh, I am happy. Because we were expecting A, when who said A even exists? Open and watch. Open and watch and be who you are inside and be authentic. To really be authentic. I did a program in Silicon Valley, and I said authentic person, and afterwards I had a dozen adults come up to me and say, what did you mean by authentic? And I had to stop myself on that because I thought everybody would know that, but then everybody has their own line of life and their thought and the language that goes with it. And I said, wouldn't it be nice if when someone said something to us, we can actually tell them our truth? That'll last long. No, think about this. Have you ever thought of being true to yourself and not lying to yourself? I lie to myself? Sure, think about it. You're making up a story where I won't sit there and meditate. Well, it's not a story. I've been meditating for about 45 years. And sometimes you sit there and there's like 12 conversations going on and none of them is yours. You sit there. You sit there and you focus. Sit there and focus and be grateful. The people that are with those animals and the people who looks like if they had 4 animals, they'd be better. These people needed that dog, that animal to help them. And they are being helped by that dog. Because I bet you if you really looked at them, they are not worse than they were before with humans. They just like dogs better.
Thank you, Steve. We are, gosh, how the time flies. We probably have room for one more question, and then we'll start to close here. I'm going to go to Dia. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Hello. Hello, and I am 13 years old, and I'm Dia. I just had a doubt that I really love myself. So when a disturbed child goes to the animal, when a disturbed child goes to the animal, does an animal give out some energy which calms the child? Because I have an animal, and when I am sad, I go to him, and then I feel really good.
Beautiful question.
You want me to address that?
I think so, Steve. You're the
Yeah.
perfect person there.
Okay, sum it up for me again, the last 10 seconds of what you said.
I said that I have a bird, and whenever I feel sad, I go to him and I feel much better. So same way, when a
Okay.
disturbed child goes to the animal, does that animal give out
an energy?
What it is
Yes.
you are forming a relationship. You are forming a relationship between you and another species. The dog doesn't speak English, but he understands you. He'll come over and kiss you, and your face looks like you're not feeling good. They really care about us. And if you form a relationship with a dog, and it becomes really powerful, sometimes you're not interested in other relationships for a while. That's okay. And remember, if that bird is giving its all to you, you must in return, or more like a cycle, give back. Because the more you give, the more you're going to get. It's true. It's called selflessness. You give everything, and it all comes back. I got a story, but I'll make it short. I'll make it about 2 minutes long. Usually it's a lot longer. My coyote lived with me for 20 years, and they normally live about 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years in a while. And the coyote was 20 years old, and that was the day. One day I woke up and looked at him. I said, okay, we have to call the vet because he's in pain and he's not going to get better. He's like, if he was a human, he'd be like 120. So I had a dream that night. I had a dream that the coyote took me with his leash and dragged me over to one part of the fencing of the sanctuary, and he laid down as if to tell me that's where he wanted to pass on. Well, I walked over there and I sat down, and a veterinarian came, and I was singing songs and burning incense and sage and talking to the coyote, and it was really wonderful. And then what happens is the veterinarian has to give one shot, which just totally relaxes them. They fall asleep, and the other shot stops the heart from beating. And I do ceremony when that's happening, more stories, and I talk about the life of the animal and how he was connected to me. And all of a sudden, the 25 cattle that are on the neighboring property started mooing. And they ran as fast as they could across the field and stopped right where we were, right in front of us, surrounding us. And then I saw when the animal's soul leaves the body, sometimes I think I can see it. It's kind of like waves, heat waves. And the heat waves started coming out of the coyote. And I said, Mingo, that was Coyote's name. I said, Mingo, please go where you're supposed to go. I'll be okay. You don't have to stay here and take care of me. You go home. Go where you're supposed to go. I'll be okay. And it was the first time I was ever selfless to one of the animals. I gave so much, but I didn't know that selflessness meant and felt. And then those waves, heat waves, rushed into me. And my whole body started to shake inside. And then a voice said, Steve, you are now the coyote. The coyote, by being selfless, the coyote gave me everything. I've always thought when you're selfless, you have to give everything up. No, you get everything. It all comes to you because you're not hanging on. You're letting what's there merge with who you are. Thank you.
Beautiful. What a beautiful response to close our. I think that sums it all up. And I'm sorry we don't have time for more questions at this point, but there is a place on the Google form where people can share what stays with you from this conversation, any questions that you're holding as you move into the world after this circle. And Sachi, I think we do have a special surprise offering, a musical offering for Steve and Anne and Rajesh and all our other participants.
If you're okay to go just a few minutes over, we have Radhika and Radhika Didi, who's a Kabir and a singer, and also from the Kabir Festival. She sings a lot of amazing songs of Sufi poets, and also Shruti. So with community there is abundance, and so we have abundance of closing options. So we will have Radhika followed by Shruti, and then Steve will close with his flute. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much for including me. Actually, when I entered this meeting, I realized that barring Sachi, I didn't know anybody, and that was enough. Sachi is enough. But as I was listening to this last 2.5 hours, I realized what a beautiful world. Sachi has a way of introducing me to these beautiful, circles and people. So thank you for that. And I have been listening, and honestly, I totally resonated with one of the persons who said that, I cannot imagine coexisting with animals or having them into my home. I belong to that breed. But yes, after listening to all the sharing, I realized that there is another universe that perhaps I'm not exposed to and I don't know enough about. So of course, it has opened my ears and eyes. And what I want to share today is actually the poetry of one of the Sufi mystics from Punjab. His name is Bulle Shah, and he signs off as Bulleya in his poetry. And why I picked up this particular piece is because since we were discussing about wildlife and animals and nature, so this is again a metaphor which is often used in Sufi poetry, which is that of the body being made of clay and the body being perishable. And there are other poets who have written about this aspect, like Kabir. And Bulle Shah also, in this particular poem, he says that our body, while it's something to celebrate and it's something to worship and to look after, to tend to, sometimes it gets a little jumpy. This body that is made of clay, it gets a little jumpy. There is arrogance that comes in because of our physical attributes. And so he says that sometimes this play of clay is so funny that, the same clay is what a horse is made of, the same clay is what his gear is made of, and the same clay is what the person who's riding on him is made of. We're all made from the same clay. And yet the one who's riding the horse seems to think that he's somewhere far more superior, or he can rule over the others who are also made of clay. So that kind of play with words that he does here. And again, he talks about arms and about weapons, and he says they are also made of clay, and the ones that they target are also made of clay. So this one feeling that the other can be controlled is such an illusion. And finally, he says that after all this play or into this world, we are finally going to rest, and we are going to lay on the ground and become one with the soil, with the clay. So what is all this tamasha, as they say? What is all this, show that we are going about? That's the question he raises in the end. माटी कुदम करें दिया, माटी कुदम करें दिया, माटी कुदम करेंदी यार, माटी कुदम करेंदी यार, वाह वाह माटी दी गुलजार, वाह वाह माटी दी गुलजार, माटी कुदम करेंदी यार, माटी घोड़ा माटी जोड़ा माटी दा सवार, माटी घोड़ा माटी जोड़ा माटी दा सवार, माटी माटी नो दौड़ावे, माटी माटी नो दौड़ावे, माटी दा खड़कार, वाह वाह माटी दी गुलजार, वाह वाह माटी दी गुलजार, माटी कुदम करेंदी यार, माटी माटी नू मारन लगी, माटी दे हथियार, माटी माटी नू मारन लगी, माटी दे हथियार, जिस माटी पर बाती माटी, जिस माटी पर बाती माटी, सो माटी हंकार, वाह वाह माटी दी गुलजार, वाह वाह माटी दी गुलजार, माटी कुदम करेंदी यार, हंस खेड फिर माटी होवे, सोंदी पाँव पसार, हंस खेड फिर माटी होवे, सोंदी पाँव पसार, बुल्लाए बुझारत बुझे, बुल्लाए बुझारत बुझे, ताला सिरों भुई मार, ताला सिरों भुई मार, वाह वाह माटी दी गुलजार, वाह वाह माटी दी गुलजार, माटी कुदम करेंदी यार, माटी कुदम करेंदी यार, वाह वाह माटी दी गुलजार.
Beautiful.
Thank you for listening. So much love. Over to you, Shruti. Thank you, Sachi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to sing a song about. I'm so deeply moved by all of this, and I know we're running way beyond time. Therefore, I do not want to take much time. But I do want to share this song of a poet named by the name of Sheikh Ayaz, who's written about the day that we will meet our true selves. And he says we will meet our true selves the day those red buds, you see those on the branches, the day those burst into gorgeous bloom, that day we shall meet the self. The day when the flocks of cranes return singing, calling, crying, return home, that day we will meet our true selves. And I'm going to put the words on the chat, and I know there's a certain ego associated with this fishbowl, but I invite everyone to turn on your video if you feel called and just sing along with me. I've put the words. I'll try and keep it short. I apologize for the time. Just feels more like a circle than a stage, which I think this is what तदये मिलंदासी पीड़ी पौधा तारिये जडेन गाढ़ा गुल्लोम्या तदये मिलंदासी तदये मिलंदासी अल्लाहू अल्लाहू जदे वरद्यो कुंजर्यो हर हर करे हर हर करे हुल्लोम्या तदये मिलंदासी तदये मिलंदासी पीड़ी पौधा तारिये जडेन गाढ़ा गुल्लोम्या तदये मिलंदासी तदये मिलंदासी अल्लाहू 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 गल्लानी गोरात्री मंडा गल्लानी गोरात्री मंडा जदे मोटू तुल्लोम्या तदये मिलंदासी तदये मिलंदासी when those tears, yours, mine, and all of the children, when those tears are as valued as pearls, that day we shall meet our true selves. गल्लानी गोरात्री मंडा गल्लानी गोरात्री मंडा जदे मोटू तुल्लोम्या तदये मिलंदासी तदये मिलंदासी अल्लाहू 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 The day we realize that separating from our truest selves itself was a naive mistake, that day we shall unite. छोड़े जादी हड़ा छोड़े जानी हड़ा भोराय जी भुल्लोम्या तदये मिलंदा
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you. Really, thank you, Shruti. Thank you, Radhika. These are my, like, it's just amazing. The morning has been amazing, and I'm just so grateful to all my relationships, community, Pavi Didi, John, and Rajesh, Mia-san, who's in the invisible, supporting John, Shruti and Radhika, who just on one call said yes, and just agreed to do the closing. Rohit, who's been helping, since yesterday. It's been just amazing. I've been firing orders to him. So many other people who just at one call been a part of this gathering, and that just for me makes me count my blessings, and I feel really honored and supported to be doing this work, to being in this world, and just I mean, there are no more words to say anything. It's almost midnight in US, where John, Steve, and Rajesh and Pavididi are, and I cannot thank them enough to stay up late and make this happen. I'm grateful to everybody. Thank you. We all can unmute if you like and say bye. And any last words that you feel like saying?
Thank you, Sachi. Just so much gratefulness for everyone here.
Really. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody. Krina here.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye. Good luck to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Lovely
Thank
morning.
you.
Thank you for
Thank you so
doing this,
much.
Sachi. And
Thank
John
you,
and
sir.
Steve, I'm so happy to be in the same space as you. 5 years ago, I met you, and it was just beautiful to experience the magic all over again. Thank you.
See you.